Hey, everybody. Welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy.
So my call tonight, in the spirit of Whitman, we talked about the powerful play goes on. We all must contribute a verse. And so we need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York and Illinois and Colorado. We need to see other states with their remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026. And let me make this crystal clear. We can de facto end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it the minute Speaker Jeffries gets sworn in as Speaker of the House of Representatives. It is all on the line, a bright line in 2026.
Well, that was California Governor Gavin Newsom, who scored a huge victory with his Prop 50 this week. We're going to talk about that and the elections overall and some other stuff in just a second. But first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So let's get to the big things of the week. Let's first start with the shutdown, because today is day 38. Doesn't seem to be any end in sight. And I got to say, when the Democratic Party is looking at the polls pre-election and seeing an overwhelming majority of the electorate blaming Republicans for it, they must be incredibly empowered post-election in terms of the leverage and standing firm on health care. I don't know where this is going to go, when it's going to end, but I do think Republicans are going to capitulate.
I didn't think so a week ago, but I think it's coming closer to that, especially as we come into Thanksgiving and we're already reducing flights by 10%. It's the largest travel day of the year. They're going to be reduced by how much, we don't know, by Thanksgiving. And for whatever reason, the White House thinks that this plays well for them. I don't understand it. I can only imagine that some Republicans are pulling their hair out as he's tweeting out, 24 images of his new gold bathroom.
So we know that Trump already has thrown his party under the bus. He blamed the huge election loss on his party because of the shutdown. But the thing with the shutdown is we're now in like the 6th week. And for most of that, people are like, shut down, shmut down, right? But then all of a sudden, the SNAP benefits expire. Open enrollment for Obamacare hit last week. We see that federal employees, including and especially the military and air traffic controllers, are not getting paid. The Trump administration has ordered a 10% reduction in flights. And all of a sudden, the impact of this is being felt greatly. And you would think that given the drubbing they took on Tuesday, that they would wake up and go, wait a second, we're fucked and we got to do something here. They take their marching orders from Trump, and Trump is talking about, the Senate should invoke the nuclear option. They should kill the filibuster. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has just said that's a non-starter. That's not happening. They're not going to do that because they very wisely believe that down the road that will come back to haunt them. That will be a big advantage to Democrats. So if Trump's not asking for it, they're not going to go against him, right? And if you're Hakeem Jeffries, you're sitting at the fucking poker table with 3 aces, man. Like, you're not changing anything. Same with Schumer. So unfortunately, people are really starting to get hurt. And I just hope this thing ends soon, but I hope it ends the way it's supposed to end, with healthcare being protected, because that's really the important thing here. That's the long-term important goal here for Americans. But let's talk about the election, because this was earth-shattering. This was a landslide of epic proportions. We had huge victories in Virginia, New Jersey, California, Pennsylvania, New York. We also had victories countering the narrative that this was just blue state nonsense. We saw the Democrats kill the supermajority in the Mississippi State Senate. We saw 2 Democrats become 2 of the 5 members of the Electricity Commission down in Georgia. So this was across the board and on a county by county level. The breadth and depth was stunning. The margins were much bigger. I mean, Abigail Spanberger won by 15 points in Virginia. Mikey Sherrill won by 13 points in New Jersey. The 3 Democrats seeking re-election on the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, they won. So the Democrats retained the majority in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is huge. And my boy Gavin out there in California with Prop 50, he delivered to Democrats 5 seats to counter the 5 seats that Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Texas stole. And last but not least, Zohran Mamdani in New York, a controversial candidate, a controversial victory, and certainly going to be a controversial mayor. I love the fact that he's young, he's energetic. I love the fact that he's brought young people into the mix. Hopefully they get drunk on the power and realize, oh my God, I could do this in Congress. I could do this in the White House if I just get excited and vote. Part of that is up to the candidates to excite them in the same way. And I hope that the Democratic Party, the DNC, learns a valuable lesson for how Mamdani communicated with young people. But here's the kicker about the New York City mayoral race. He won by 50.4%. 50.4. Barely winning a majority. By contrast, when you look at the elections of Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, you're talking high 60s, mid 70s. So he's got a job cut out for him. New York is a very divided city right now. And I hope he's going to step up and meet that challenge and unite people, because if he doesn't, it's not going to be a pretty picture in New York.
I couldn't agree more with the fact that he energized young people and Gen Z who have felt isolated and left behind. And the brunt of COVID, it really, I think, affected this group of individuals. And it was absolutely amazing and incredible how he has done this incredible job of energizing this group. I like his transition team. I think that's really a great start to his leadership. And I would like to see him represent all New Yorkers. Mm-hmm. All New Yorkers include private and government partnerships, people of all religions, races, socioeconomic statuses.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think historically it was a really big win in that we haven't had a race with someone running as an independent that was that strong. So Cuomo did take a lot of votes. He still won with a majority, which I was happy to see. About the same as Michael Bloomberg won with, more than Ed Koch won with. And so historically, he's fine on that. I think that it is interesting that we've had many mayors win who have pretty much done almost nothing for the poor and for people who take subways and buses. For the most part, they haven't really emphasized that. And so this is where he has been, and I think it's about time they have representation.
Well, it is a divided city, and I've seen it this week. I felt it. I've talked to so many people. I think there's a lot of people that are losing their minds. So in defense of Mamdani, I'm going to say unequivocally, in my opinion, he is not Hitler-esque. He is not a Nazi. He is not a Jew hater. He is not going to instigate pogroms on the streets of New York. By the way, these are all things I've been told he is and is going to do, so I'm not making this shit up. I think businesses aren't going anywhere. The wealthy, the white wealthy, aren't going anywhere. On the other hand, he does have a past. He does have some very controversial statements, which he has continued to either support and or reinforce and or not deny or condemn outright. And that's alienated a big chunk of the city. And so he does have to become the mayor for everyone. And to this end, let's play this clip.
I will look to be the mayor for every Jewish New Yorker, every New Yorker, no matter how they vote, who they vote for, or if they vote, because I'm looking to lead a city of 8.5 million people. And I think it's time that we have a politics that puts the people first, as opposed to a politics that put the self. And it is a responsibility we have in leading the city to ensure it's one that doesn't just root out anti-Semitism, but also celebrates and cherishes Jewish New Yorkers and their place in the city and in the history of the city.
We will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election.
Right on.
So hopefully that's how he's going to govern, because that's really an important thing for New York right now. The other thing I want to say about Mamdani is that he is going to be facing an angry, combative Donald Trump. And I like the way he talks to Trump and about Trump. Let's play this clip.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us.
I like that.
Obama chills. It's the same.
All right, the last thing we should talk about is there was a very important Supreme Court hearing yesterday. They are evaluating whether or not to allow Donald Trump to continue tariffing countries all over the world because he feels like it, because there are ads that piss him off, because he wants to get his friends out of legal trouble in foreign countries like Brazil. You know, really important things, national emergency type of things. And that's what's being argued in court. And I have said for a very long time that I do believe that the Supreme Court is going to give him a bunch of wins, expand his power, protect him personally, all the things we've seen them do. But I've said that in the end, I don't believe they will give him the keys to the democracy. And I've said that consistently. This case, just a litmus test, because not only is the language in the Constitution super clear, Article 1 states that the power of the person, the power to tax all of this stuff is with Congress. And their argument is whenever Donald Trump wants to do something, all he needs to do is declare an emergency. He can just do whatever he wants. Basically, that makes him king. And that was kind of the argument that I think it was Gorsuch made yesterday, that if you take away Congress's powers and give everything to Trump, then it's like he's a king. It's a monarchy. It's not a democracy anymore.
Well, I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it? It's worked so well before in these emergency cases. But it's the cornerstone to one of the cornerstones to Trump's policies, and it certainly will feel more like a democracy if SCOTUS does the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it seems clear that they're not going to give him the tariffs. But what they do consistently is to hurt minorities and people of color, minorities like LGBTQ. Like if you're Hispanic, it's okay to just stop you to ask you questions. You now can't declare on your passport what gender you are. Everything that it has to do with individual rights, they seem to just side with Trump.
Yeah, well, you know, the argument could be made that that's when there's been a conservative court, regardless of who's president, they've done that for years because that's what they do. I mean, you know, elections have consequences. And so when Donald Trump gets to appoint 3 justices on the Supreme Court, there's a lot of shit they're going to give him because ideologically they share a lot with, maybe not so much him because I don't know what kind of ideology he actually has at the end of the day, but with Republicans, they share a lot of ideology with other conservatives. But I will throw in the fucking towel if he wins on this one, because if you listen to the line of questioning by the judges, even the conservative justices, they're really just bringing it down to, if he has this kind of power, then Congress is useless. And that's not what's in the Constitution. And so we're going to see who are the strict textualists, who are the justices who are literally looking at the language in the Constitution and interpreting this case according to that.
But we have some ideas who a couple of them may be.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Clarence Thomas was, I mean, they were all pretty unified. It was like they were incredulous as to the lack of substance and cohesiveness of John Sauer. What is he, the solicitor? He's the Solicitor General.
Solicitor General.
Yeah, of his arguments. And the justices got pretty indignant. And that included Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and others. So, and obviously the liberal justices. So it would be shocking if they ruled for Trump in this case. And if they do, then I will no longer say that they're not handing him the keys to the democracy, because that's literally what they'll be doing. So,
okay,
my money's still on the court.
Well, Polymarket agrees with you on this case.
All right, let's get to our winners and losers.
My winner, hope. Citizens voted and demonstrated that democracy is very much alive. We have the momentum leading to 2026. My second winner, the first round of Hunger Games has begun within the MAGA factions and is on full display for all of us to view.
My winner is New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. And my loser is Andrew Cuomo, who did not have the grace to even call as a concession to Mamdani, which is really breaking tradition.
My winner, Gavin, who put his ass on the line with Prop 50, and he delivered. He's been Trump's biggest online troll and real-world nemesis, and his victory this week catapulted him to the head of the 28 pack. He looks, sounds, and is so presidential right now, he might as well be on Mount Rushmore. My other winner, we the people. We demonstrated that we will win, that democracy will win, that Trump and Republicans will not win. And that gets us to the weekly rant. So the Republican government shutdown is on day 38. You got federal employees not getting paid, air traffic controllers not getting paid, military's not getting paid. Everybody's pissed off about SNAP benefits and healthcare premiums and the cost of food, clothing, cars, auto insurance, just about everything else continues to rise. And that's why voters went to the polls on Tuesday and they spoke loudly and clearly about the state of the economy and their worrisome kitchen table challenges. And what was Trump's response to all this? This is what he said yesterday.
Talk about the cost of Thanksgiving and the cost of living through Thanksgiving and enjoying Thanksgiving. For Joe Biden, it was 25% more than it is for me. At a later time, our energy costs are way down, our groceries are way down, everything is way down, and the press doesn't report it. The press reports whatever the con people say. You know, I call the Democrats con men and women. They make up numbers. But when you look at 25% reduction in costs for Thanksgiving between Biden and me, meaning this administration, that's a tremendous number. It's the biggest reduction in cost in the history of that chart or whatever it is they do. They do a synopsis of everything. They cover every element of Thanksgiving meal.
Use the word synopsis.
25% down. So I don't want to hear about the affordability, because right now we're much less. If you look at energy, we're getting close to $2 a gallon gasoline. With Biden, it was $4.50, $5. Another thing, inflation. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Now we have virtually no inflation at all. It's down at a very low number and a very normal number. So the affordability is much better with the Republicans. The only problem is the Republicans don't talk about it. And Republicans should start talking about it and use their heads, because we have great numbers. We have and they're going to only get better when all these jobs open up, all these factories open up that are being built all over our country. We are building auto plants. We're building AI plants. We're leading in AI over China and everybody else. When all of these plants start opening, we're going to have a revolution, a positive revolution, economic revolution like never before. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So look, that thing was just chock full of lies. I'm not going to discuss that. That's just typical Trump bullshit. But listen to what he said that really matters. I don't want to hear about the affordability. I don't want to hear about the affordability. The same affordability that drove massive Democrat victories in every single fucking election this week. Affordability. That's what everyone has been talking about. Affordability. Affordability. From moderates like Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger to progressives like Zoran Mamdani. Affordability. 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 And what does this clown do? I don't want to hear about the affordability. And, the reason he says something like, I don't want to hear about the affordability, is because he doesn't give a fuck about the working class and the middle class. He's focused instead on covering the White House in gold, demolishing the East Wing to build a $300 million ballroom, and throwing tone-deaf Great Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago. Trump has always considered his base stupid. He once famously beamed, I love the uneducated. But that's never been more evident than in his insistence this week that they're too stupid to realize how cheap food is. He's literally telling them, who are you going to believe, me or your lying grocery bill? He did the same thing recently when he told farmers that they're too stupid to realize how good the tariffs have been for them. But this week's election demonstrated that an appreciable part of the base is calling bullshit on all of that. The Republican Party lost 2 key constituencies on Tuesday, young men and Latinos, and not in small numbers, showing that their brief love affair with Trump is over. This week's election was a referendum on Trump and a massive rejection of everything he stands for. It was also a rejection of the weak, feckless, cowardly Republican Party, which has so shamelessly enabled his every single divisive and dangerous whim. Something in the air changed over the summer. It was palpable. The resistance was reborn. And then 7 million Americans marched in the streets recently at the No Kings protests. And then this week, they ran to the polls. And they sent a very powerful message to Trump and the Republican Party. We don't like your shutdown. We don't like your economy. We don't like your violent ICE raids and immigration policies. We don't like your chaos, your cruelty, your corruption. And we don't like your assault on our democracy. And now Trump is a wounded animal, and he knows it. Post-election, he sounds angry and scared. His approval is in his gold-plated toilet at around 37%. And Johnson and his inept party should be terrified of this week's results because it's only going to get worse for them. I started saying this a year ago, and I'll say it again today. This is the gang that can't shoot straight, and their gross incompetence will inevitably put Democrats back in power. We saw that on full display this week. All of which is why Optimistic Andy is more optimistic than ever. Alrighty, let's get to our friend Rick Wilson. He is co-founder and board member of the Lincoln Project. He's a renowned political strategist, infamous award-winning ad maker and podcast host, writer, speaker, and political commentator on MSNBC, CNN, ABC News, NPR, Real Time with Bill Maher, and various American and international news outlets. He's also a 30-year veteran of national Republican politics. He got his start in the 1988 presidential campaign of George Herbert Walker Bush, and he has produced groundbreaking and award-winning political advertising, strategic counsel to winning political candidates, SuperPACS, state parties, the national campaign committees, and corporate, association, and government clients across the nation and around the world. And he has authored 2 New York Times bestsellers, Everything Trump Touches Dies, and Running Against the Devil, a plot to save America from Trump and Democrats from themselves. He often writes for the Washington Post, Politico, Rolling Stone, The Hill, The Bulwark, and the London Spectator. Rick, welcome back into the back room.
Andy, how are you, my friend?
I'm happy.
Me too. Damn good day.
What are your biggest takeaways from yesterday?
Look, the biggest takeaways are simple. Democrats can win in this country in purple and blue states and red states and big cities and small towns, because last night we saw Democrats win not only in Virginia and New Jersey and New York City, we saw Democrats pick up seats in Georgia,
right,
for the statewide public service commission, and in Florida in local races. And the common theme of all of them was not anything from the normal Democratic playbook. The common theme was affordability and the economy. And the statement over and over again, we're going to help your family have a life that you can afford. We're going to help you, afford gas and groceries and housing and these things. And man, that message worked everywhere.
So it's still the economy, stupid.
It's still the economy, stupid. It worked in blue cities like New York, where Mamdani kept the focus. As much as everybody wants to make it about his, socialism or his communism, whatever the fuck it is, everybody heard from him over and over again, I'm going to bring the price of rent down. I'm going to raise the minimum wage. I'm going to make life more affordable for New York City families who are middle or lower or working class. You heard it in Virginia with Spanberger. In Northern Virginia in particular, where they've suffered so much from the Trump Doge and Project 2025 cuts, we're going to make sure that your families, we're going to fight to make sure that our economy comes back. All these things over and over again last night, combined with the fact that Donald Trump is now toxic radioactive political waste for Republican candidates. He was right about one thing last night. When he's not on the ballot and you're a Republican, you having to pretend you're going to run a race and acting like Trump, you're going to get your ass handed to you.
But was he on the ballot, actually? I mean, I know what you're saying, but in a real sense.
This was a referendum on Trump in these states.
Sure.
And it's a referendum on Trump that reflects what we're seeing in all the polling right now. Voters blame him and Republicans for shutting down the government. They blame him for the tariff chaos that's hurting farmers, manufacturers, small businesses all over the country. They blame him for wasting time on a ballroom when he's cut off food aid for starving kids. This is a singularly unpopular president. He's never been less popular. But then again, no president in history has ever been less popular. Ever. His numbers across the board are abysmal, especially with this big swingy group of independent voters that really turned out last night. You look at Cheryl in New Jersey, won 59% of the independent voters, won 9% of Republican voters, those Lincoln Project voters. In Virginia, 60% of independents went for Spanberger, and about 9.7% of Republicans went for Spanberger. There is a big middle in this country that when Democrats talk about the economy and jobs and affordability, they can win anywhere.
Yeah, and the races down in Georgia that you were talking about, that was the first time in 30 years.
That's correct.
The
Public Service Commission races in the state of Georgia, which seems crazy to even to look at that. This is a state that was very much a bastion for Trump in 2024, and it is increasingly obvious that the damage he's done has altered the political calculus in the country in a profound way.
So would you say that Democrats have their groove back?
Here's the deal. I want to say, great night last night. Don't fuck it up.
And how would they fuck it up?
If they go back and believe that this is a mandate to start producing 700-page policy papers about climate change, abortion, gun control, whatever, that are their pet issues for different interest groups, they're going to get their ass handed to them.
So no pronouns.
If they go back into the culture wars, and Cheryl Spanberger, both were exemplary about not taking the culture war bait. Okay? They were like, oh, thank you for your interesting point. Fuck off. Here's what we're worried about in our state. And it all came back to the economy. They've been given a golden sweet spot message. A lot of people in 2024, myself included, because every poll in the country was screaming about it, said abortion was a big issue. It turned out to not be decisive at all anywhere.
Right.
And I'm not making that a qualitative decision or discussion about abortion. I'm just saying everything was wrong in the estimations that people had. Everything. It did not move the numbers. It did not move. We had, look, and it showed up in our polls. It was in Trump's own polls. They were worried about it. It was just wrong across the board. The economy killed it. The economy stepped on it. People were worried about prices, worried about inflation, worried about the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, all those things. And now we've got a second proof point of that in this election, because that affordability and cost and inflation argument has now been proved out to work for the Democrats. Trump owns this economy, top to bottom, stem to stern. And so we are now in a very different spot, and I think a better spot for Democrats than they could have imagined even a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and what I found really interesting and reason for a lot of hope was how the candidates yesterday fared with young men and with the Latino community. What did you make of the shift that we saw in those two constituencies?
Yeah, last night put the lie to this assertion that MAGA had assembled a permanent governing coalition, as the egregious dickweed Josh Holmes used to say, built of working class voters of all demographics.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist. Trump did a one-off with young working class white men and with young Hispanic and young black men, in part based on the trans issue, in part based on the podcast bro stuff, in part based on their hesitations about voting for a woman. He didn't solidify them as a coalition. He just rented them. He just borrowed them. And last night, across the board, they said, yeah, no thanks.
And do you think that the Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz thing that we started seeing a couple of months ago, where they were pulling back, did what we saw yesterday, was that the impact of that?
I think it very much had a lot to do with what we saw yesterday. That idea that Republican men or Republican votes from young men were going to be automatic. It's the same kind of category error the Democrats made, thinking, okay, all black voters will always vote for us. All Hispanic voters will always vote for us. They did that for a long time because they looked at the patterns, and that was generally true for a long time. But the Republicans made that same mistake last night, and they thought the young black men, young Hispanic men, and young white, what they call the gamer guys and the pod guys, were going to stick with Trump when he wasn't on the ballot, and when he spent the last year fucking up their lives. So we're in a very different universe now, and I think the cynicism being displayed by Rogan and other of the bro podcaster universe, and Vaughn and all those other people, I think that has had a major impact.
And when you look at the fact that moderates, centrists like Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill won, but also Mamdani won, they ran on the same issues. And I found that really interesting, that like if you're at the DNC, you're looking at that and going, okay, so it really doesn't matter whether you're a centrist or a progressive as long as you talk about the right shit.
The striking thing from all the exit polls and from all the analytics we've done at Lincoln, the economic message cut everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It worked everywhere. Look, I mean, Sherrill and Spanberger both faced, Spanberger more than Sherrill, the Republican greatest hits of that, of 2024, trans issue over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They just kept going back to the economy over and over, diligently, carefully, and it worked. And it worked really well. And it's a lesson for 2026 that now is not the time to get into, like, now we're going to convince America about our position on, and folks, don't get mad at me, climate change or gun control or whatever else. Those things are all important and valid issues to talk about. They're not going to be the things that decide the election. And if you have something that now works, use the tool that you've been handed.
Yeah, it seems simple, doesn't it? I mean, James Carville mapped it out how many decades ago?
Yeah.
Right?
When I was but a child.
So when you think about Mamdani's victory, and you were in this business, and of how the Republicans might use that against Democrats going forward, that making him the face of the party, how much of that do you think we're going to see? And do you think it'll be successful?
I don't think it'll be successful globally or nationally. I do think it will be successful among the MAGA base, because they like a lot of bespoke imaginary issues. They have what I call the catalog of imaginary demons. And he's going to be, they're going to scream, he's imposing gay Sharia communism in New York. And they're going to go, and it'll be on Fox. And it was on, like that cover of the New York Post today. And it's just, it's pretty weak shit, really. It's pretty weak shit. They're going to try to, deport him, all this other garbage. I don't think it's going to do anything except make them look more disconnected from reality. I don't agree with the guy and everything, but let's be real. He is a magnificent candidate.
Sure.
He is a candidate with chops. That man can do the work.
He's Obama level.
Yeah.
In terms of connecting and energizing people
100%.
and projecting authenticity in a way that resonates. There are people who say he's fake. Personally, I don't see that, but he's got all the right attributes. But he also is a Muslim, and you could just,
listen, the Laura Loomers of the world are like, Islamo-fascists were elected in Virginia and New York. They're going to impose Sharia law. Guys, bet me. New York is not going to have Sharia law.
No.
It ain't going to happen.
I was leaving the New York Rangers game last night at Madison Square Garden. Rangers lost, so people were upset. So we're walking down the stairs to get out. And there's a bunch of like white bros with their beer cups still in their hands. And one of them just realized that Mamdani won.
Right.
And they're like, really? Oh, shit, dude, no way. Get out. Not in this town. No way. Not happening here. And I'm like, yeah, it did.
Au contraire, mon frere.
And to me, it's just like people hate this guy because he's a Muslim. Like there's something inherently wrong with him because he's a Muslim. And I've heard things and I've seen things this week that I'm just shocked. And it's not coming from the right.
Look, there is a degree of anxiety about Mamdani's politics vis-a-vis Israel and Jewish voters. And he's going to have to really deal with that because some of it is not all smooth sailing.
No, he only got 50.4%. If you compare that to de Blasio and Eric Adams, high 60s, 70s. So the city's divided.
Giuliani got 58% when I did his race. But I will tell you, as a guy, I was a senior advisor to the mayor. I worked in City Hall. I know this. I know what being mayor ends up entailing. And it's not, as I say this a lot, there is not a department of the proletariat inside City Hall. There is not a redistribution of wealth department in City Hall. If you're the mayor of New York City, your job sucks. It's hard. Every day you get up and sometime somewhere in that city, a firefighter is going to get injured fighting a fire, and you got to go to the hospital and see him. A building is going to collapse somewhere in New York City, and you got to go. A tunnel is going to flood and you got to go. Something's going to go wrong somewhere every day and you got to go. You got to be there on the ground. You're going to have to deal with shit that is boring and expensive and tiresome. And it's not things you're going to be able to put up on TikTok. It's not the fun stuff. Campaigning is fun. Being mayor is a grinding, hard, brutal job. Some days, the worst of days, it's 9/11. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff that isn't 9/11 that is hard every day you're a mayor. And I got to tell you, I do not think he has fully internalized that yet. But look, I'm always hopeful. I want the mayor of our largest city to succeed. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I live here. I feel the same.
I mean, de Blasio and Adams were not great stories for being mayor in the city of New York. They did not cover themselves in glory. And I like Bill personally. We see each other from time to time. But neither one of them was a Mike Bloomberg. Mm-hmm. And in Rudy's best days, and it's always controversial, I know, but in Rudy's best days, you needed him. In the worst of days, you needed the best of the worst of people sometimes, right?
Well, we had a horrible moment, and he met that moment.
He did. And you know what? If he had just retired then, if he had just said, you know what, I'm going to go give speeches for the rest of my life, and I'm going to have the Giuliani Leadership Institute at NYU or whatever. Yeah. When he dies in a couple of years, you know what they would have done? They would have put statues up to the guy in New York.
Sure.
They would have renamed the Verrazano Bridge the Giuliani Bridge or whatever the fuck, right? but he had to get into the Trump universe. But being mayor,
He was actually the original election stealer.
oh yeah, back in 2020.
People forget that,
Or back in
you know?
2002, excuse me.
Man, he wanted a third term.
Yep, he sure did. But you know, nothing about Rudy, nothing about Rudy, or Bloomberg or Ed Koch before, or Dinkins before, or Beam before that. Not one of those guys ever woke up in the morning and said, I got nothing to do today. This is an easy job. It's the hardest executive position in America except president. Mm-hmm. And I hope for Mamdani's sake that he takes it on as a job for those 800 square miles with 8 million people, that he treats them all with one standard. And I'm not really that paranoid or pessimistic about him. I know that a lot of the things that some of his very progressive fans were super jazzed about just aren't possible. It's just not that's not the world.
No, but he's smart, and he said, I used to say, like last year, just tell young people we're going to give them a free bag of weed every week. Like, who cares? Right? Do what you got to do. And then we look at the other side. It's like, okay, how do we win? We make up some bullshit about they're eating the cats and the dogs. Right. Yet we're afraid to like even say we'll give out free bus passes. So he was smart. He probably knows more than anybody that he can't achieve much of this stuff. Yeah. But it's what people want to hear. They just want to hear that someone is out there knowing that they have a problem and at least talking about trying to fix it. And I think that's where he really struck a chord. Last question. How do you think this election impacts this shutdown impasse?
Look, the shutdown, every public and private survey has shown that voters blame the Republicans and blame Trump for the shutdown. Mm-hmm. There is no daylight there at all. It is 100% consistent across the last 13 polls. Okay. Our internal numbers that are a little more rarefied about swing voters, it's even worse for Trump. Independent voters are 2-1 against the shutdown, 2.25-1 to be precise. This is a political disaster for the Republicans and for Trump. They are going to pay a terrible price for it. They're already watching their poll numbers in the districts fall apart, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Mm-hmm. This is a really dumb play at a moment where they should be playing the game smartly. And that dumb moment that they're in is one that Trump seems dug in on now. And today he said, John Thune's going to end the filibuster, and so we'll be fine. And Thune walked right out of the White House and said, I don't got the votes, bro. Mm-hmm. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, he said that the other day too. So do you think Democrats stay firm? They have even greater.
They better stay firm. I heard today that Schumer, Gary Peters, and Jeanne Shaheen were like, oh, well, we can end the shutdown now. We're going to end it now. We're going to make a deal with Mike Johnson. I'm like, the fuck are you doing? You want to kill all that enthusiasm you just built up last night? That's the way to do it. Well,
they have a knack for snatching.
Oh, yes, they do.
Defeat from the jaws of victory, don't they?
Yes, they do. And I never tire of watching them think, hey, that looks like a bear trap on the ground there. It's rusty and it's a giant jagged metal thing. I'm going to put my foot in it just to see if it's a bear trap.
Yeah, well,
unbelievable.
Not this time. I'm with you. They got to stand firm. That's what voters want. And they punish Republicans. They punish Republicans. They didn't punish Democrats for this shutdown.
Nope. They're 100% correct. 100% correct.
Rick, always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next chat.
Thank you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
This episode was produced and edited by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud for Radio Free Rhinecliff, with additional editing by Maddie Rosenberg, music by Andrew Hollander, and graphic design by Cricket Langell. And with a special thanks to our sponsor, The Epicurean. Again, thanks for listening. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Backroom with Andy Ostroy YouTube channel, where you can watch full videos of our interviews. See you next time.